can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Political Discourse. Let's get right to it. I brought a clip to the channel because I want you guys to see the treatment of black men. Now, you could be a military veteran, you can have money, you just be a black man in the streets. It does not matter. The prevailing behavior of others toward black people, black men especially, is very disrespectful and life-threatening. All right. So before I bring this clip, please like, share, comment, and follow, as well as subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. Your participation and viewership in this channel will be appreciated. We will continue to use that to bring more informative and educational content to the masses. So let's get into this clip. I'm telling you, it's telling. But for the most part, most of us understand and know how we are, or how they interact with us in society and in our own homes, for that matter. This clip is very telling, so get a bar of this. Okay.
That way, it takes all the liability off you guys, takes it off the city. I think it'll be. That'll be the best thing to do.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Tell the doctor.
Put me in handcuffs. Watch
Turn
out.
around, put your hands behind your back.
What have I done?
Put down the damn phone. You're calling 911. We're standing right in front of
But
you.
I'm asking you to leave my residence.
I'm not leaving your place now. Cuffs wouldn't be on you if you weren't acting the way you are.
Acting by exercising my constitutional
Okay, have a
rights.
seat. The worst thing you could do is make a 911 call right in front of us. Actually, what you did was against the law.
It's not against the law.
How much time you have on?
20.
I have 34. So the smartest thing's going to be put him on a gurney, handcuff him to the rails, take him to the hospital, tell the doctor that he's complaining that he's got previous back injuries and he fell in comfortable position with us, and you need to clear him. That way, it takes all the liability off you guys, takes it off the city. I think it'll be the best thing to do.
Sounds good to me.
Now, what you guys just witnessed was a cover-up. All right, and that's a paramedic telling this guy, or the cops, LAPD, how to go about arresting this brother, and then having him committed to a hospital for a mental evaluation, all of which is against his constitutional rights. He's already said, hey, man, I don't need you guys here to begin with. Two, now they're going to violate him further in terms of constitutional rights by hooking him up to a gurney, having him committed to a hospital for a mental evaluation, something he did not ask for and is telling them he does not need. But the cover-up took place with the paramedic with the LA Fire Department telling the LAPD officer, this is how you go about doing it. The coldest part about this is, if we witness this, and it is us witnessing them talking about how to cover up or trample over an individual's constitutional rights, if they did it to this brother, how many other times have they done it to other brothers? All right. Now, peep game, though.
Okay.
We got,
so we're on the same
what
page.
information?
What if starting a dropshipping business didn't feel so complicated anymore? With AutoDS, everything works in just a...
This case stems from a harrowing 2019 incident in which veteran advocate Slade Douglas was falsely arrested, sexually abused, tortured, and forcibly hospitalized by LAPD officers Jeremy R. Wheeler and Jeffrey H. Yabana. In October 2023, United States District Judge Honorable Maame Iwusi Mensah Frimpong rejected an appeal from LAPD lawyers to dismiss the case, ruling that officers Jeremy Wheeler and Jeffrey Yabana are not entitled to qualified immunity for unconstitutional detention, excessive force, retaliation, violation of due process, violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, violation of the Bain Act, battery, false arrest, false imprisonment, and negligence.
They rattled off, or he just rattled off 10 violations, 10 in this one incident. one incident. I think the only saving grace for this brother was initially he started to record this, and then they have their body cams on, so it caught everything. But that's 10 violations on what started out as an arrest, ended up turning out to be a committal or commitment to a medical facility for mental evaluation. It gets worse, man. And I'm bringing this up. I want us to see this because this occurs every day with our brothers and sisters, but brothers more than sisters. Peep game, though.
The judge also held that the city of Los Angeles is vicariously liable for the officer's actions.
Well,
and courtesy of Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie is, the material using Fair Use Act, all right?
this is a hell of a story. $6.8 million awarded to the victim. We have Mr. Slade Douglas on the program, Army veteran and advocate. And we also have Thomas Lucas, senior administrator with Equal Justice Network. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me on Indisputable. Wish it was under better circumstances. All right. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Douglas. Obviously, you had the police called on you, and when the police chose not to leave, even though they were there for something completely non-enforceable, you decided to call 911 on them, and then it seems as if they engaged in a systemic protocol of cover-up and also abuse.
And again, the cover-up comes as a result of the LA Fire Department paramedic telling them, hey, man, this is how you go about doing this, to keep your cells clean, keep you from being liable in case this guy wants to sue. This is how you do it.
Against you. So tell us why 911 was called on you first and what happened after that in your own words.
The 911 call was actually a squatting incident initiated from the VA as it related to my advocacy for veterans.
So Veterans Affairs called the police on this guy. They went to his house. Now, they called the police on this guy because he advocates for veterans at the VA, and the issue with veterans, I don't know if all you guys or any of you guys know, the treatment they receive from the government is abysmal. They can care less about, war veterans, and they treat them any old kind of way. They don't give them the proper treatment, the care. They don't look after them, take care of them. A lot of them have PTSD. A lot of them have their amputees. There are a whole lot of issues going on with these people who were or who served in the U.S. military. The VA is supposed to assist them. They don't, and what they do is, they deny them care. So, these guys, a lot of these guys, really, really have issues, PTSD, stuff like that. So this guy is an advocate for those individuals. Not only is he an advocate, he's also a military veteran. So the VA called the police on this guy because he's an advocate of military veterans.
So when they actually arrived again at my location, I was surprised in the first place that they were even there. Then when they entered by deception. So when they refused to leave, I exercised the constitutional right by calling 911. And for that, I was prosecuted for that.
When you say they entered by deception, I think that's an important note. To my understanding, their guise was, this is a welfare check. Am I correct?
No, sir.
What did they say they entered for?
They asked me, could they come in and talk to me because they had received a call from the VA. They never indicated anything about a welfare check because had they done that, I would not have allowed them. So they said that after the fact, the welfare check narrative came after the fact of all this happening. Yes, sir. It was an after the fact justification to cover up police misconduct and further slander my character.
What did they say inside of your domicile that led you to know they were not there for a good faith reason?
When they immediately started trying to search my residence without a warrant and I had not committed a crime. And when I asked them to leave and they refused to leave, I knew at that point in time that they had bad intentions.
If we didn't have Quo, there would be a lot of instances where we're slower to solving a customer's problem.
Is there some kind of special relationship that was exposed between, let's say, the person at the VA who made this, one is unenforceable, obviously, but who made this call and the cops who decided to carry out this unenforceable act?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So they were inside of your domicile, your home.
I think his first mistake was allowing them inside the house. All right, inside the apartment or its location, as he put it. And this is something a lot of us don't get, man, when it comes to being stopped or being questioned by the police. First, you don't talk to them. You know, second, when they ask to come into your residence, your location, first thing you tell them is, do you have a search warrant? First thing you ask them is, do you have a search warrant? All right. They don't have a search warrant. Don't let them inside your location. That would be your first mistake. And I don't care who you are, what the issue is. They do not have a search warrant. They do not gain entrance. That's simple.
Told them, okay, I'm not telling you to leave, which you have the right to do. Yeah, you have the right to invite them in. You have the right to tell them to go. They decide not to leave, and you decide to call 911, which based on the...
But because he let them in, see, now you gave the devil entrance. He's in your home now. Once you let him in, they don't have to leave. Technically, they don't have to leave them left unless you really know your constitutional rights. But again, you've let them in. Now, by the same token, you let them in, you say, now you can leave. They're supposed to leave. But a lot of them, they press. Police, they press because they think if they press hard enough, they can intimidate you to back down and let them do whatever they have a mind to do inside your location.
Video evidence says that's what really made them upset. It wasn't anything you had actually done. It was you exercising your right. So tell us about the 911 call. And what.
Keep that in mind. Anytime you exercise your constitutional rights, then you trigger something in them. All right. Now, I advise, or anybody with any sense of guys with legal advice would tell you, hey, man, always record and stick to the Constitution, what the Constitution pertains to in terms of your rights as a human being. All right. And I'm suggesting keep recording as long as you possibly can, because that is your evidence. That's your lawsuit. That's where your money is. You know what I mean? That's the money, you know.
What happened afterwards?
Well, when I was dialing 911, obviously I was threatened to put the phone down. Obviously he used colorful language as well. So when I didn't put the phone down, that's when it was snatched from my hand, which is battery. And then obviously I was unlawfully arrested, which I feel was a form of entrapment as well. Because as you're aware, Dr. Rich, if you don't comply with that, even if it is unlawful, now you're going to be charged with resisting arrest. So obviously I knew to comply.
Yeah. So they start to effect the arrest. You're in handcuffs. We see you in a police cruiser. An ambulance comes. We hear police and first responders talking to each other as if they know what play to play. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about that conversation and what happened when you got to that hospital.
That conversation was obviously horrifying.
Yeah.
And it also let me know, as you mentioned on your earlier segment, how that's a playbook that they always use.
And trust and know they do have a playbook for black men. They have different plays in that one chapter, you know, and this is just one. See, this individual, knowing his constitutional rights, they decided to violate them anyway. There's a playbook for that. There's a playbook for guys like us from where we come from. There are a few plays in that playbook or that chapter, and we'll get into that.
Because they was very comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And they did this against my will. So it was essentially kidnapping under the color of law. So when they took me to the hospital, obviously I refused treatment. The judge in this case as well, who's a tremendous judge, even ruled as a fact that I was treated at the hospital without my consent. And without consent, every act that follows is a crime. So the police told the medical staff that they needed to find something in my system to justify the arrest.
Now, this is something else that need to be said, man. When it comes to consent, again, I first mentioned consent when they come to your door. No search warrant or whatnot. They'll ask for consent to come in. They'll ask for consent to search your car. Consent. There's also such a thing when you are in a medical environment, you know, hospitals or whatnot. There is consent. It has to be implicit. You have to consent to them taking anything from you, fluids, swabs, whatever. You know, and without that consent, it becomes a violation of constitutional rights, you know, and depending on what they do, you know, depending if they go in your mouth or they go through your urethra, through your penis or your anus without your consent, that's sexual assault. You know, it's just a lot to this that we don't know as black men, as black people, period, that they do to us every day.
That was why you had the extreme toxicology examinations, which were extremely intrusive.
Yes, sir.
And obviously you had no need for them because, number one, you have denied medical access to your body.
Okay? Yes, sir.
Give us as much detail as you can. What happened to you? What did you experience while on that hospital bed? And what did these nurses and I assume you spoke to a medical doctor, maybe at some point, perhaps not. But tell us that experience.
Yeah, well, I was double handcuffed to the gurney. I was injected a total of 9 times.
Wow.
They never told me what they were injecting into my body. I was in and out of conscious. And then they placed me in what I consider to be a torture chamber. I was eagle spread, leather restraints on all of my limbs. And that's apparently when the forced catheter actually took place, which again, under California Penal Code 289, that's sexual assault with an instrument.
Okay, and a catheter is when they take an instrument and thread it through the urethra of your penis, you know, to draw urine out of your bladder, all right? So without your consent, if they've ever done anything like that to any of you guys, that's a lawsuit. It's a violation of your constitutional rights. But that's where also the sexual assault comes into play.
And they did that obviously to get urine from me to test that as well.
At any point, because here's the thing, brother, myself and others are thinking, you got to have some good-hearted people at that hospital. Like somebody at the hospital has to say, what are we doing to this man? Why are we doing this to him? What requirement do we have to do this to him? At any point, did anyone question any of this activity being done to you?
Absolutely not. And during this time when I was unconscious, I was protesting. I was asking for a supervisor. I was asking for a patient advocacy and so forth and so on. But it was like I had no rights, which they were bound to respect.
Now, most of us know when we go into the hospitals, they care little about us, period. You know, it to them is just a perfunctory duty for them to do paperwork, take your temperature, take your vitals, they could care less about any of us. We know this going into the hospital. So that's no surprise. Even for him to say, hey, man, where is the supervisor on staff? You know, where is a patient's advocate? He got none of that, you know, but this is something we experience every day.
Let me go back to the genesis of this. You are an advocate for veterans and veteran rights.
Yes, sir.
Your advocacy is what led, according to what you understand happened, your advocacy is what led to this initial 911 call. Can you give us an understanding of your advocacy for veterans?
Yeah, well, I advocate for veterans primarily with the fraud, waste, and abuse. The homeless population in Los Angeles, it's a cesspool, to put it in layman terms. And there's a lot of bridge programs that they actually have as well, where they're actually pretending to be providing services for veterans. But at that point in time, when they don't follow through with it, they always label the veteran as being difficult or the veteran having PTSD. So there's no enforcement mechanism in place to ensure that the taxpayers' money are being utilized for what they claim is being utilized for.
Here you are a veteran yourself. You are an advocate for veteran rights. You do your job you advocate and you get the police called on you. They're coming knowing it's a non-enforceable 911 call. Like there is no crime here in order for them to enforce. It is a civil dispute at best, a disagreement. In fact, they don't enforce those. So they come anyway under a false pretense. You then get arrested. There's a cover up on camera about what they're going to do to you in order to eliminate or limit liability for the city and for the police. You go through this ordeal. You end up being abused in multiple manners, not just physically, but also sexually. You get abused. After that abuse, what happens, brother? When you're released finally, what do you do?
Well, obviously it took some time to recover and just put the pieces together, because you wouldn't expect the government to actually do this to you based upon your advocacy. But America has a history of doing these things to a lot of leaders, such as Martin Luther King Jr. and so forth and so on. But it took me a while. I was isolated for a few days. And then finally I had to go ahead and start that healing process. Even though the person that I was that day, I'll never be that person again. That person is gone.
Stop telling people you're going to write a book and finally get it done. You know.
I say this because one of the most difficult things for an advocate to do is advocate for themselves.
Now, part of the reason why I've dropped this clip, I put it into form. I made it part of the content, is to stress a point to brothers out there, man. A lot of us are out in the streets, and the circumstances are different in terms of what the content is talking about, and what I'm about to say is totally different. A lot of brothers in the streets, they advocate for their set, their neighborhood, their game, right? Not really understanding, man, that, you know, you guys are advocating for the wrong people or for the wrong person. Your advocacy is supposed to be first and foremost for yourself. And that advocacy is supposed to represent your well-being, you know, your future, you know, your goals, your plans, you know, how you make it from point A to point B every day safely. A lot of us brothers, man, we don't advocate for our own lives. We advocate for something, man, that has no bearing on your future, man, in positively speaking, your future in a positive respect. You know, the only thing that you're advocating is for a hood, a set, or a game that promises you nothing but two things: death and destruction. All right. The death is the end of you. The destruction is the end of your life. You know, out here on the streets where you can actually do more for yourself and your people than you can being in prison. We have lost the sight of what self-advocacy is about, or what it should represent. Instead, we advocate for corners and streets that no one owns, you know, and by doing so, we put ourselves in this position where the so-called authorities, the LAPD, can push up on you, violate your constitutional rights, because the truth of the matter is most of our brothers and sisters do not understand the law, do not even understand what the Constitution is or how it applies to them. All right. So the police push up on you and you violate your rights right then and there, first and foremost, push up on you. Hey, don't you move, come in, let me search you. Those are all violations of the Constitution, but brothers don't know this because they haven't taken the time to advocate for their well-being and their safety. But they'll advocate for a corner or a game over mindless stuff, will represent it to death or incarceration. It's part of the reason why I brought this down, just because the word stuck. Advocacy, man. Self-advocacy is something you brothers do not do for yourselves. You will advocate for a set that you know, or game that you know, a neighborhood that you know have caused the lives of many of your peers. You'll advocate, man, for something, man, that does not advocate back for you in the right perspective, all right? So I'm gonna let this clip finish up, man, and we'll talk about this again. Before we do, please, I ask that you like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. Your viewership and participation with this channel, trust me, it allows us to continue to bring informative and educational content to the masses.
It is hard for us to wrap our heads around advocating for ourselves because we have dedicated our lives to advocate for the people.
Or dedicated our lives to advocate for a set or a neighborhood that does not benefit you or your life.
What point did you realize I'm going to have to advocate for me now?
When I realized that people didn't really want to tell the truth about what happened to me. They wanted to use labels like welfare check or 5150, which is very slanderous to me. So the city's defense was a malicious prosecution. They literally saying I'm mentally ill and dangerous because I exercise the constitutional right.
Wow. Wow. You were and are justified. The federal jury awarded you $6.8 million in damages to Mr. Slade Douglas, U.S. Army veteran, following the lawsuit of what happened back on that, I would imagine to be pivotal day in 2019.
Okay, and that was his situation, but there are too many points in it that can validate what we go through as Black men in this country, especially in Los Angeles. You know, Los Angeles being one of these states in the union that violates the constitutional rights, the human rights of Black men more than any other. All right. Again, so I just wanted that to jump out there, man, at you guys, so you guys could see what's being done to us, man. Try to focus on that. All right. And then focus on self-advocacy, you know, and that's only about, you know, representing, you know, what's right about you, you know, doing what's right about you, putting yourself in a better position, man, to gain an inroad into a more productive life, you know, a more healthier life. All right. That being said, I'm going to get out of you guys' way. Take care of yourself and one another.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.